All right. So this pre-arrival webinar is really here to provide you with some key information as you prepare to travel to Jamaica and start your studies here at Mona. You can let me know if you're seeing the screen.
Yes, we are.
Perfect, perfect. So what we'll cover is that we'll first give you a brief overview of the university, just so you have an understanding of the context in which you'll be studying. We'll then have a discussion with Mr. Hamilton about accommodation, and you'll likely have quite a few questions and thoughts about that. We'll follow that with some crucial details about immigration, which is, of course, very critical. So pay keen attention to what Mr. L will share with you during that segment. I'll then return for just a brief presentation on managing your money while studying here in Jamaica. And then we'll, of course, end with some student perspectives. So we're pleased to have with us some students who will be sharing their reflections on their time here at Mona. So let me start with the overview of the university, and more specifically, the Mona campus. So the UWI is a regional university system that was founded in 1948, and it was initially instituted as an independent external college of the University of London, and it spans 18 countries in the English-speaking Caribbean. Now, we're currently celebrating, and at the tail end, in fact, of celebrating our 75th anniversary. And we have a rich and very proud history of excellence, and also global and regional leadership in terms of academic matters and thought leadership. We are also ranked by Times Higher Education as the #1 university in the Caribbean, and among the top 1.5% of universities in the world. We have 5 campuses, so you'll be coming to the Mona campus, which is situated in Jamaica. But we also have campuses in Trinidad and Tobago. That's the St. Augustine campus. We have the Cave Hill campus in Barbados. And we also have the Five Islands campus in Antigua and Barbuda. Now, we also have a global campus, which is essentially our online, our virtual campus. And there are also country sites and our territory sites in 17 countries across the region. And of course, we also have a regional headquarters to help tie each of these campuses together. And that's also situated in Jamaica. And when you come, you actually see it right across the street. Right, so we have a very proud history. We had some very notable alumni. So we've had over 72 Rhodes Scholars, 18 current or former heads of government. So definitely the leadership of the region has largely come through our halls. We also have 2 Olympic gold medalists, 1 Booker Prize winner, and 3 Nobel Prize winners. And you'll see some of them right there. Of course, we have had a long association with the great man himself, Dr. Usain Bolt, I should say, who you see there receiving his honorary doctorate from the University of the West Indies. And we have an athletics track that is also named in his honor. In terms of our university leadership, we have our chancellor, Mr. Robert Bermudez. We have our vice chancellor, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles. And then we have our campus principal, which leads this campus, the Mona campus, Professor Denzel Williams. So it's good for you to see their faces and know who is in charge of the University of the West Indies. Now, looking more specifically at the Mona campus, again, we were the founding campus of the university, and we sit on 653 acres. And if you learn a little bit about the history of the campus, you'll find out that it's actually situated on 2 former slave plantations. So there was the Mona Estate, for which the campus is named, and there's also the Papine Estate. And so there are neighboring communities of Mona and Papine that sort of sandwich the university. We have approximately 17,000 students enrolled, and they're enrolled in over 400 academic programs, which are spread across 7 faculties. We also have 12 research centers, which cover a range of areas that help to drive development across the region. In terms of the faculties, of course, we have the Faculty of Social Sciences, which is our largest faculty. Our founding faculty, the Faculty of Medical Sciences. We have Faculty of Science and Technology, Humanities and Education, Law, Engineering, and then we have our newest faculty, which is the Faculty of Sport. Now, we have many excellent facilities and support services here at the University of the West Indies. So we have our UWI bookshop, which provides you with books and supplies, and you can also get branded merchandise there. We have our student union, which is sort of the student hub, which includes the guild offices. So you, of course, have a student government that sits there, and you would have a supermarket, a gymnasium, and several restaurants, and a host of other things that are really key for students there. You have the UWI Health Center. So there are clinic services. There's a pharmacy there in case you need to fill prescriptions or get medication. And there are also counseling services that are available through the health center. And much of this will be shared with you during our orientation session in January. In terms of facilities, we also have the Mona Library. So in case you need to borrow books and get other academic resources, or if you need a study room when it comes time for exams, that will be your home, so to speak. We have the UWI, the Mona Chapel, which offers church services and chaplaincy. And we have the UA Bowl, which has a myriad of sporting facilities there, from cricket to football, I think basketball, and a host of others. There's also an Olympic-sized swimming pool and so much more. Of course, JFF is there, our Football Federation, and the Usain Bolt track, where many of our top athletes train. Those are at the UWI Bowl. Of course, where we will be without food, and you'll see some familiar favorites here. So we have KFC. They say that the KFC in Jamaica is second to none in the world. So you can be the judge of that when you come. We also have Burger King. We have a local chain called Juicy Patties. We have Little Caesars. I'm not sure if Little Caesars is up and running just yet, but we have several other restaurants, local cafeterias, kiosks and stalls where you can get food. In terms of activities, we have over 120 clubs and societies. We also have multiple, student events that you can engage in, including orientation, matriculation, and for those of you coming, of course, in semester 2, you'll be treated to homecoming, UWI Carnival, and some of you, those who will be doing full programs, there's of course graduation. There are also, hall events and student excursions and a host of other activities that will help you to fill your downtime. We also have several banks and financial institutions available on campus. So this is just a map of where they're located. And again, you'll get more of this information when you arrive. Right, so of course, one of the key facilities that you'll be concerned about is, of course, accommodation. And so I am pleased to invite Atal Hamilton and welcome him again. He is the Student Services and Development Manager for Taylor Hall. And he'll be joining us to give us a little bit of insight into some of the policies and procedures that govern life on Hall here at the UWI Mona campus. Hello, Mr. Hamilton. Welcome again.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to our students. Looking forward to welcome you on campus.
Indeed. Right. So just to start, can you give us just a little bit of background about the halls of residence at UWI in terms of, how many halls there are and what the capacity is?
Right. So we are able to house just over 5,000 students on campus. We have 10 halls of residence on the Mona campus, 9 of which are primarily for undergraduate students. We have 1 graduate student facility, the Marlin Hamilton Hall, and that is available only to our graduate students. Of the 9 undergraduate halls now, 6 of them are run by the university campus itself. And then we have 3 halls that are run by our private partners, 138 student living. all providing housing for students. And I would hasten to add at this point that when selecting a hall, you probably would want to look at the cost of the accommodation in each hall, because there's a range in terms of what the cost is, and also the type of housing.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. So I'm hopeful that everyone has already done so, but in terms of the application for on-campus accommodation, could you just kind of give us a little insight into that process?
Right. So typically our students apply online through our student housing portal. They could also email us at our student housing email address, which is managed centrally through my office. And we ideally communicate with our students through that email address, which I will give later on. But students typically apply online.
Okay, interesting, understood. Right. So say I am an international student and I've applied for my accommodation on campus, but I've not yet heard back. What should I do?
Right. So the first thing I would recommend is you send a quick email to us at student, student, housing, housing, at uwi.mona.edu.jm. That is picked up by a staff member in my office, and we usually respond to the student, advising them. Or if it is that we need to follow up with the hall that you selected, we will do so and then move the process along. I will try to drop that email address in the chat before we end.
Okay, excellent. So the students can look out for that. Now, I know that finding accommodation for students in semester 2 can be a bit tricky. So what happens if, a student application to live on hall is actually rejected? Or what should they do?
Right, and you are correct. For semester 2, we usually do not have a lot of available rooms on campus. What my office does, we liaise with the halls to find out where the vacancies are. And then we would channel those applicants to where there are available rooms, which is why it is important, if the student having applied to a hall has not gotten a positive feedback, that they reach out to us as student housing so that we can intervene on their behalf, because maybe it is the hall you have selected does not have any available room. And so we could do the legwork for you, trying to direct you to where there's housing.
Okay, all right. So I know, many of our students are in the process of making their plans to come to Jamaica, essentially next month. So what is the official move-in date for regional and international students? When should they look to arrive?
All right, so typically our students want to arrive in time for orientation that would be organized through the International Students Office. So the important thing, and again, we're not hard and fast with our regional and international students in terms of when you arrive, because we're cognizant of the fact that you are making flight arrangements. Sometimes flights may not be available the ideal dates that you want. The big takeaway from this question is that the students, having gotten housing, must communicate clearly with the hall manager. So the person who would write to you to say you have been granted accommodation in Taylor Hall, you, at the earliest possible convenience, would write back accepting the offer of accommodation and indicate to us the date that you will arrive in Jamaica, so that appropriate arrangements will be made to welcome you to the hall, to get you checked into your room, and to assist you with getting settled, to learn very quickly where to access places on campus. You would have highlighted some of our eating places, banks, and so on. So indicating to us when you are scheduled to arrive in a hall. That's very, very important, especially during semester two or during this period for the start of semester two, which is not a big intake period for us.
Okay, excellent. Right, and it seems that there's quite a bit of support that's available for receiving students and also helping them to get settled on hall. Are there any specific guidelines that students need to observe when they're moving in?
Yes, less so now that we're basically out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But the one we still need to know when the student is arriving, you ideally are to pay your fees before you arrive. In a perfect world, we know we don't live in a perfect world, but that's a requirement and that's a policy of the university. I know I'm jumping the gun, but I'll just deal with this at this point.
No
If it
problem.
is that you are unable to pay the fees for whatever reason, I know sometimes getting your credit card registered with the university virtually and so on sometimes can be challenging. You could inform us. Just a quick email to say, I'm having challenges paying the fees because of whatever banking issue. And we'll make the appropriate arrangements to welcome you. And then after you are settled and you get your banking information sorted out, then you will pay those fees. But so that's important. The other things that you need to bring as well, if there are questions that you have in terms of what's the weather like in Jamaica, I know your office may have already communicated that to them. But in terms of the specific items that you may need to have with you as a student to survive on hall, we normally send out a list of suggested items, just a suggested list of things that you may want to have. And keep in mind that there are some things that it makes better sense to acquire them when you arrive in Jamaica because you cannot travel with too many things. So if you have stuff like medication that you must have, then we suggest that you walk with that. So at least for the first few weeks, you would have whatever critical medication that you may need. And as I said, it's important that the hall knows when you're arriving. And interestingly, in the letter, for students who may have a disability, I don't know if anyone here does, we need to also know so that we are able to better prepare for you. We have an office on campus, which is under Office of Student Services that looks after students with special needs. So that information to prepare us is also important.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for that information. You mentioned some flexibility in terms of making payments. Is there like an absolute deadline that, I know, deeper into the semester, is there an absolute deadline that students would have to be making that payment? And if, God forbid, they're unable to, what are some of the actions that might be necessary?
Right. So your letter will tell you what the policy is. Fees are paid in full before you arrive. But the university also gives the student the option of going on an installment plan. And that works well for a lot of students. It is clearly communicated on the bursary section of the website in terms of what the arrangement is. But typically the students would pay upfront 25% of the semester fee. So if it's $100,000 for argument's sake, you would pay 25,000 upfront, and the remainder is divided in equal installments. And you pay prior to a set date in the semester, which I don't have in my mind just now, that you must complete. But those information are available on our website. So there's the option of paying monthly for your hall fees.
Okay, thank you for that. One of the areas in which we'll be touching on later is about budgeting and managing costs and so on. I know that there's the general accommodation fee, but are there any costs outside of that that students need to budget for or consider? things like laundry, or do they have to pay for services like internet or other utilities?
Right. That's a great question. Pretty much all of our halls provide laundry facilities. Um, if you're in one of the UWI run halls, the charge to wash is 200 Jamaican dollars. And you would need another token, which is the same $200 to dry. So to wash and dry a load of clothes would be approximately 400 Jamaican dollars. 138 has somewhat higher charges for that, which I don't have with me now. But in terms of additional cost, that would be the only other service that would not be included in your hall fee in terms of things that you would use in the hall. So the Wi-Fi, that's all included in the package. The students would pay for a furnished room, and the attendance services that we provide in halls of residence, because as you know, one of the mandates that we have is to help the students with their own personal development. So my staff, my office would help students who maybe need assistance with setting up their study timetable. You mentioned clubs and societies that are available if students want to be involved in debating or mentorship. We provide all of these services. There are a number of development programs in halls of residence. In Taylor Hall, for instance, we have an excellent chorale. So students have access to all of these things as part of their campus experience. And sometimes they even come up with new ideas and they want to form new clubs and so on. We help to guide that process, to make sure that they have a fulfilling and enriching experience on our campus.
All right, fantastic. All right, just pivoting a little. I know safety and security will always be of paramount importance. Can you just say a little bit about the safety measures that are in place on the halls and the surrounding area?
Very important question. Safety and security for all our students and staff is very important. On the Mona campus and in halls of residence, we have a private security firm that provides security services to halls of residence, which as you know is Ingala. On top of that, we have campus police services that provide additional security as is required. And then, of course, we have a Jamaica Constabulary Force post on the campus. So there are 3 layers of security on the campus. But for our students in hall, you would interact on a daily basis with our private security firm. There are signing in protocols that need to be observed for students and their guests. When our student is entering the hall, all you need to provide to the guard on duty is your student ID card, and that gives you access. If you have a friend who is not a resident in hall, then that friend needs to be logged and signed in by the security. There are visiting hours within the halls of residence for the UWI run hall. That's from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. So there's a very wide span. Put another way, between 1 a.m. at night and 8 a.m. in the morning, we would not admit visitors to the hall. In terms of keeping students safe on campus, we really encourage them to follow all the security protocols. The things that we tell them and that the security provider give as guidance. Wearing your ID at all times, not leaving your key to your room above your door or under the mat, making sure that you don't hold the gate to allow somebody else not known to you to enter the hall, so on and so forth. Once our students follow these guidelines, we are very confident of keeping everyone safe. And the last thing I would say on security is as well, when you have to move across campus, say at night, students need to know that you can access security shuttle. So suppose you are living, for argument's sake, in Taylor Hall, and you want to get down to Preston Hall, you ask, and that would come and take you, subject to being available. Sometimes you may have to wait a while, depending on what they are doing. So there are a number of things that we have put in place to help to keep our students safe on campus.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much for that. Are there any closing thoughts or any rules or regulations you think the students should observe as they prepare to come to UWI and living on our halls of residence?
There are others. What I will say is once the student gets the hall license agreement, which is basically, we loosely call it our room contract. It sets out the terms and conditions under which the student is allowed to use the room. And I would ask the students to read carefully. For me, I tend to send it ahead of time to the student so that they would be able to be familiar with all of the do's and don'ts for living in a hall of residence. And please, if you are online here, you have been accepted and you have not gotten your room, your hall license agreement, you could email your hall manager and ask for that, because it's important in helping you to understand how your new environment operates. Outside of that, I would say we look forward to welcoming students in hall. And I should add very quickly that if you are here if you're going to be studying on the Mona campus for beyond semester 2, then you would need to apply for accommodation for the next semester. And that is also done online during the month of March.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Hamilton. So we'll just open up very quickly for any student questions. So of course, you can either type them in the chat. Ms. Terrell will kindly read them, or you can just raise your hand using the raise hand button. And once acknowledged, you can pose your questions. Any questions for Mr. Hamilton? Any questions on accommodation? All right, so I'm seeing one hand from Janaya Kohli. You want to proceed with your question?
Hi, yeah, sorry. I just had a question. So what if we have expressed interest in a hall and we're in the process of getting an acceptance letter, but then you were interested in going to another hall instead? Would that still be possible within that time frame? And if so, how would you go about that process?
Right, so let me just, is it that you have gotten acceptance in one hall and you subsequently want to change to another hall?
I haven't been explicitly given my acceptance letter yet. I was just told that I would likely be in that hall, but I was looking to switching to another hall.
Okay, so you could go ahead and ask for housing in that hall that is preferred, keeping in mind that at this time it is subject to available space. So yes, you could ask, but I would say if you also have an acceptance, do not pass up that acceptance for one hall until you have an offer from another. So,
Mr. Hamilton, just
wise
to
guidance. Yes, Mr. L.
some background, Janaya, she's one of the students that I spoke to you about that for Elsa Leorini. So both of them, there are two of them, they're awaiting the response from or the official offer of a place on hall.
Yes, and just to say, I spoke to Mr. Anderson just before we got on the call. So those letters will be coming out very soon, hopefully today.
All right, fantastic. So I see Esther Irakosi. You have a question?
Yes, hi. We were just wondering how long after the semester is over are we allowed to live on campus?
Excellent question.
Okay, very good question. So the fees quoted to you in your letter will take you up to the end of the semester. But students can apply and stay in hall during the summer months up to the end of July of the year. Keep in mind, however, that's a separate charge that you would be billed for and you would pay for the period you want to stay. So if you want to stay, say the semester ends 15th of May, and you want to stay for a month and leave middle of June, you are welcome so to do, but you would need to apply to the hall for the extra month and then pay the attendant fees.
Right. I see a hand
Thank
from
you.
Efren Nicholson.
Hi, thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
I had received my acceptance letter last month, but based on the information I got in the letter, there were some kind of inconsistencies with dates. I was offered to start in January, but that didn't really answer my question if I would be attending or starting classes in January or September. No, since there is that confusion and they haven't responded to my answer fully as yet, what would be your advice when it comes to the housing? Should I still go ahead and apply? What if end of the day they change from January to start classes in September? What will happen then?
Okay, if I could take that. Ephraim, are you undergraduate or a graduate student?
Undergraduate.
You're undergrad, so you are admitted to a full degree program
Yes.
and you received an offer, you said, for semester 2?
Yes.
Okay, because and you have sent an email to the admissions office. Which
Yes.
program were you accepted to?
Medical physics.
Okay, that's in SciTech. Okay, I'll need to follow up with the admissions office. I know that the admissions officer that deals with science and technology, she's currently on vacation leave.
Sorry, it's a
So-
graduate. It's a graduate. Sorry to
It's a
interrupt.
graduate program.
Ah.
Okay.
That's a
Okay.
different office, yeah.
All right, a different office. All right. Well, I will have to follow up with graduate studies.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I will have to follow up with graduate studies. If you could just put some information, I need your student ID number and yeah, just give me your student ID number and an email address. If you could just put that in the chat to me directly. Hermin
do-
Terrell is my name, so you just put it to me and I will follow up and get back to you via email.
I'll do that. Thanks a lot.
All right, excellent. On the admissions, on the accommodation side of that question, Mr. Hamilton, what are your thoughts there? Is it safer for him
Right,
to?
if he has gotten an offer, he can go ahead and accept it, pending acceptance to his program. There's no penalty for accepting an offer and not showing up. The only thing I would ask for you, as soon as you are certain that you are not coming, then you communicate that to the hall so that that room could be released for another student.
All right, excellent. Are there any other questions? I don't see any other hands. If not, then thank you so much again, Mr. Hamilton. I think this was really excellent, very clear and very informative. So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing with our students.
You're very welcome. And the last thing I'll do is drop my personal email address in the chat. So if anything pops up and anybody has a question, you can feel free to shoot me an email.
Excellent. Thank you again.
Hi, everyone. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Hamilton. Right. So the next segment will look at the very important matter of immigration, which will be delivered, of course, by Ms. Hermin Terrell, who is the Senior Administrative Assistant within our international office. So let me just bring up the slides again.
Oh, one further question, Mr. Hamilton, before you leave. I see in the chat Kian Roberts put, how soon can a student be admitted on hall for the second semester?
If the space is available, we can take the student at any time. Just keep in mind that if you come before the start of semester 2, there will be additional charges. The fee, you would have to pay for the days if you arrive early. But we're here, we could admit the student pretty much anytime.
Okay, great question. And thanks again, Mr. Hamilton. I appreciate it. Right, so we'll be pivoting to immigration. I'm going to share the slide. All right, so Ms. Terrell, over to you.
All right, okay, now we're going to be talking about a very important matter of immigration. Now, I will touch on the things you will need for immigration, for entering Jamaica, your landing stamp, your extension of stay, and fines and penalties. Next slide. Okay. Now, we sent you would have all received your admissions letter, your offer letter. Please ensure that you have that on hand for when for traveling. You will also need to have if you have not yet done so, if you need an entry visa, you will also need to have your offer letter. So have your offer letter either printed and you have it on your person, or you have it easily accessible on your phone. Your passport, you will definitely need a valid passport, and your passport should be valid for at least 6 months of your program. So please ensure that you look in your passports, have a look at the expiration date to ensure that it is valid for the period you'll be in Jamaica. For those persons who will be in Jamaica longer than 1 semester, and let's say your passport expires in 2024 or 2025, if you will not be returning home, you will need to make arrangement to have your passport renewed. So please find out whatever details that you'll need to facilitate that process. A port of entry visa. Now, for all or non-Commonwealth students, you will need an entry visa. Please apply for your entry visa at the Jamaican consulate or embassy or mission closest to you. So if you're from a non-Commonwealth country, or if you're traveling on a passport from a non-Commonwealth country, you will need an entry visa. You will all need a return ticket. So please ensure that in booking your flight, you make a booking for your return ticket. And of course, you'll need sufficient funds. We'll be doing budgeting later on. So you need to ensure that you have sufficient funds to cover your stay. For those persons who will need the entry visa, you too will need to have the proof of sufficient funds for your entry visa application. Next slide. Now, upon arrival at the port of entry, whether you're arriving in Kingston or in Montego Bay, the immigration officer will issue a landing stamp. And we ask that you pay particular attention to the landed until date. It's very important that you are mindful of this date, because your extension of stay will have to be done before the landed until date. Next slide. Now, understanding the landing until date. All right, going on now, the landed until date, which is indicated in your passport, that is important when you're going to apply for your extension of stay. Now, the extension of stay is what you can term as your official visa your student visa for being here. Now, that application will be done after you are fully registered. You must be fully registered at the university to apply for the extension of stay. And registration entails the selection of courses online, the approval of these courses by your faculty, and the payment of all your relevant fees. And just to touch on the fees, that will be applicable to a different category of students that will be here on this webinar. We have our exchange students. You would not pay us your tuition, but you'll be required to pay your miscellaneous fees and your ID card and for accommodation. For our study abroad students, you will be required to pay tuition, miscellaneous fees, and ID card, and your accommodation fees. For our full degree students, you'll be required to pay tuition, your miscellaneous fees, and accommodation fees. Now, please pay attention to that. We have had some of our exchange students that were not aware that they need to pay the miscellaneous fees. These are compulsory fees, so please ensure that you put that in your budget. Next slide, please. The extension of stay, what will be needed for your application? Your passport, a valid passport, and of course, I told you that your passport should be valid for not less than 6 months. The reasons for this, if your passport is valid for less than 6 months, the extension of stay will not be granted and you'll have to go through renewing your passport. So please pay attention to this detail. You will also need a status letter because you'll be required to go into the office, the immigration office, to complete this process. And for those students, again, from non-Commonwealth countries, if you're traveling on a passport from a non-Commonwealth country, you'll need an entry visa. And it's important that you have this entry visa prior to coming. Failure to get the entry visa will result in you being charged a penalty, and it's 50,000 Jamaican dollars. So please ensure, I cannot stress this anymore, the necessity of you getting the entry visa once you're traveling on a non-Commonwealth passport. And of course, the required fees, we will tell you more about the fees that will be applicable for this. Next slide. Now, the different types of fees. Now, there is the extension of stay fee, which will be applicable to all applicants for the extension of stay, and that is 10,000 Jamaican dollars. And bear in mind that the extension of stay process, it's a government of Jamaica process. It's a requirement for all persons who are coming in as students. Once you enter the country as a student, you'll be required to do the extension of stay. And that fee is 10,000 Jamaican dollars. Now, there are certain category of students that will pay an additional amount. There's a registration fee of non-Commonwealth nationals, which would be 2,000 Jamaican dollars, and a multiple entry visa fee, which varies. I think it goes from $500 to 2,000 Jamaican dollars. This information was included in your immigration fact sheet, and in doing your budget, we ask that you put a slot in for these fees, because these are non-UWI related fees. All right, now there's a matter of a penalty if you fail to get the extension of stay. It's 50,000 Jamaican dollars. So persons, it needs to be mindful of this, and the extension of stay must be done before you're landed until date expires. Now, some persons might say when you get that stamp, it might be for a period longer than you intend to be in Jamaica. So you might feel that you don't have to do the extension of stay. Please erase that thought. You need to do the extension of stay because you are landed as a visitor and you need to regularize your status to that of a student. So you will need to do the extension of stay after you're fully registered at the University of the West Indies. Next slide, please. Okay, now these are the different charges for the multiple entry visa. And remember, I told you it ranges from $500 to $2,000 depending on your country. And your country is definitely related to the kind of passport you will travel on. So you might be from, let's say you're from Trinidad, but you'll be traveling on a United States passport. You will be billed according to the passport that you will land in the country on. All right, next slide, please. Now, travel tips. We ask that you ensure that you do your research. Know some of the requirements for traveling and ensure that you are fully aware of what will be required of you. Now, when you go on the website for the Jamaican Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, that information that you see is a general information for visitors to the island. Now, while you are a visitor, you are considered a special category because you'll become, the purpose of your visit is that of a student. So you will need to ensure that you get all the information, you get all the required visas that you will need prior to coming to Jamaica. Stay informed about travel restriction. In these days, we know that there's so much happening in the travel industry, in traveling around the world. You need to be aware. If you're not coming on a direct flight to Jamaica, be aware of what are the requirements for entry to the other countries that you will go en route before you get to Jamaica. And you get all the required visas for these countries. Packing, pack light and pack smart. Check your weather, check the weather in Jamaica so that the things that you will carry, you'll be able to be comfortable. And of course, you'll end up using the different items that you will take with you. Be on time, don't miss your flight. Well, we in Jamaica, if there's Jamaica time and then there's the rest of the world time. And we are always just in the nick of time or late. So please ensure that you check the time for your flights. And you keep essential documents accessible in a travel wallet or a folder. So you keep, I remember I told you about your offer of entry. If you have it on your phone, fine. But if you're going to print it, you make sure that you have it in a space that you can access it easily. And you have the offer letter ready for when you land in Jamaica at the immigration desk. You will need to show that as a proof for why you're coming to Jamaica. Next slide, please. Arriving in Jamaica. Upon arriving in Jamaica, you are asked to use, when you have gone through immigration hall and you come and you collect your luggage, when you come on the outside, get into the campus, you're going to use the JUTA transportation services. And this is available as you exit. When you there'll be persons there will be asking you, do you need a ride or whatever? You can just tell them that you just need to go to the JUTA desk. The JUTA desk is normally labeled, so you'll be able to see it. So no, you don't necessarily have to ask anyone. Mr. Dunn, I'm not sure if we have a number that we can give them. So in the event that when you arrive in Jamaica, if you need to call the JUTA office just to ensure if you have any problem, but they are easily recognizable, so you'd be able, even if you're going to be getting assistance from the baggage, the persons who will help to take your luggage out, you can ask them just to take you to the JUTA office. It's right on the spine as you exit the airport. The service for JUTA comes at a cost. So I'm not too sure exactly of the cost. Mr. Don, were you able to get that cost?
It might vary based on the number of students that are coming in. So if they come in groups, then it may vary. But what we've done,
Okay,
we've shared a number and an email
and
there where you can
yes,
reach out to get that information
all
from
right.
a JUTA representative.
Okay, so you see there the JUTA representative, Noel Williams, 25@yahoo.com, and there is a telephone number there. So you can actually send an email from now so that you can have the arrangement set. So once you have confirmed your booking, your arrival time, and all of that, you can send an email to the JUTA office, and they will be able to make the arrangements. The number that's there is 876-401-5695. All right, so you can actually call the JUTA office or send them an email so that you can make the arrangements to be met at the airport and to be taken to the campus.
Right.
And you can find out the cost at that time.
Exactly. And you can share your travel itinerary with them so they know exactly when, and they'll just take you through all of that process.
Okay.
Right.
All
So
right.
thank you very much, Mr. L. Excellent
One little
presentation.
question part that I did not add.
Sure.
For immigration, as of September 1, 2023, all arriving passengers to Jamaica, you are required to complete the Immigration Customs C5 form. That application is done online. So after you have made your booking for your trip to Jamaica, you should receive information about that. If you have not received information about that, you can go to the enterjamaica.gov.jm website. Mr. Dunn will put that in the chat for the application for the C5, which is a form that you will complete online before arrival in Jamaica. So we used to have a paper form that you would get, that is no longer being used. So you must complete the online form prior to arriving. And this application is free of charge. So if you go on a website and you're being told to pay, that means that you're on the wrong website. It's free of charge. So we will give you the website that you should use to complete the customs C5 form online. All right. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. L. Can you just repeat that email again, or the website
The
again?
website, Enter Jamaica, it's one word, .gov.jm. And I think they normally, it's a same day thing. You would complete it on the day of travel.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you again. Right. So, do you have any questions for Mr. L regarding immigration? Were there any questions in the chat? All right, not seeing any hands. Okay, I see one thing in the chat. Let's see.
All right. Yeah, Janaya has a question.
Sure, you want to take that one?
So, yeah. So just to clarify, do I need my entry of stay after or before I arrive to Jamaica? All right, not too sure what you mean, but the extension of stay is done after you arrive in Jamaica. After you are registered at the UWI, you will do the application for the extension of stay. And we will give you further information about this after you have arrived at our orientation session. You will get the details for the application for the extension of stay.
Right.
All right?
Indeed. So the extension of stay is after. It should
Yes.
also be noted that you need to get it before the landed until date
The
passes.
landed until, yes. We
Right.
will give you all the details
the
at the
details.
orientation session.
Right, indeed.
Shing has a question.
Right, yeah.
Yes,
Welcome.
I also want to ask about the extension of stay because I haven't decided on when to go back home yet, which means I don't have a landed until date. Can I still get my extension of stay done?
Okay, now your extension of stay will be granted for the period of your studies, and they also give you like a month or two additional for your stay. All right, and
Okay.
remember the extension of stay, it will be done after you arrive in Jamaica, after you are registered at the UWI, but before the landed until date expires.
Right.
Okay, thank
So
you very
again,
much.
when you arrive in the country and you pass through immigration, they'll stamp your passport and write in the landed until date. And then thereafter, you would then need to seek the extension of stay before that that time passes. So that's all something that you'll do once you arrive. All right. Any other questions? All right. If there are no other questions, thank you again, Ms. Terrell. I will share my screen again. And I will quickly take you through a presentation that regards a very important topic. So of course, as you prepare yourself for life in Jamaica, one of the key considerations that you'll have is regarding money. And so while many of you might have some experience, I know others may be living on their own for the first time, managing a budget and managing their own finances for the first time. So this presentation will provide you with some guidance and help you in managing your affairs, especially as it pertains to Jamaica. Of course, it's far from exhaustive, so we encourage you to do your independent research if you haven't yet done so. So what we will cover will be creating a budget and the importance of a budget, why create a budget. We'll then look quickly at the cost of living in Jamaica, then understanding the Jamaican currency, and then some additional tips and advice. So creating your budget. So why create a budget? So it may be tempting to say, well, you just wing it and, let things fall into place. But of course, there are risks associated with that, and it could lead to financial hardships down the road, which of course I know you wouldn't want. So the first key thing is to avoid the stress that financial challenges can cause. So being prudent and managing your financial matters in advance and understanding the relevant costs and so on is really critical to get ahead of much of this. It also helps you to learn, financial independence. So these are skills that, of course, will be tremendously valuable for you as you move on in life and so on. So this is just a training ground, as you will. Also, building financial awareness is key. Understanding your own financial situation is vital. It will allow you to manage your expenses more efficiently and also fulfill your commitments, including those to the UWI. And it will, of course, ultimately allow you to achieve whatever financial goals that you have. So how do I make a budget? Now, you want to start by listing out all the relevant expenses, and we'll go through that in a little bit just to share some of the potential expenses that you might encounter. And you want to definitely be keen on separating your needs and your wants and making priorities as it pertains to what is crucial for you to live and the things that you can live without, because of course resources aren't inexhaustible. You'll of course have to include your financial obligations, so the relevant fees. Ms. Terrell spoke about several of them. There are your tuition fees for those that, that applies to, and the other relevant fees that were discussed. Now, then what you need to do is determine your income or the financial resources that you have at your disposal. Now, as students, this may come through a number of ways. May come through employment or money that you've saved. It may also come through allowances and money from your family. You may be on a scholarship and so on. So it's just key for you to understand what resources you have at your disposal and what they will cover relative to your expenses. It's also good to consider your financial goals. So whether they are long or short term, as students, you may not necessarily be in a position to action all of your long-term goals. Some of you may be, which is great. But even things like, if you want to travel, if you want to go to a particular event or party, if you want to travel home, those sorts of things. It's good to keep in mind your resources and match those against your expenses. So once you have all of that, you'll be subtracting your total expenses from your income, and then you'll see what it covers, and if there's anything left, if that is sufficient to achieve the financial goals that you have set. So if it doesn't, and you find that there's a mismatch, you'll need to look to either cut some of your expenses, increase your income, or both. And there are a myriad of tools that can, of course, help you with budgeting. And we will share with you a student budget spreadsheet. So trusty Excel is also there and valuable. Many of you would have access to that. So we'll share that spreadsheet and hopefully it will assist you in this regard. Now, some expenses that you'll need to consider, of course, tuition and the miscellaneous fee. For those who it applies to, I think the miscellaneous fee applies to everyone, but tuition, again, is really for the full degree-seeking students and the study abroad. You need to factor in your airfare and your travel expenses. You'll need to look at your local transportation as well, including the airport pickup and drop off. That's pretty critical, as was described before. You just want to have that money ready, having discussed with Juta what the fees would be. You just want to have that ready to go when you arrive. The visa and extension of stay fees that Ms. Terrell described as well, very critical. Of course, housing, and if it is on campus, then it's a single fee. If it's off campus, then there may be different models that you'll have to explore. But yeah, just have clarity on that and make sure that you have the resources to cover that. Books and learning materials. There may be taxes and bank fees that you need to manage. Of course, food and groceries, household kitchenware, and so on. As Mr. Hamilton mentioned, he will be sharing details, like a detailed list of the things that you need to bring, and then there are also things that you may need to buy once you come. And part of orientation will include a shopping trip where you can acquire some of these activities, and we'll share more details with you about that in due course. So you may also need some clothing and personal items, so you can't pack everything. So you may need to acquire a few things while you're here. There's phone and telecommunication resources that you may need to get. Entertainment and leisure. Of course, we don't expect that you'll come here and just be on the books 100% of the time. So, have a little bit of wherewithal to enjoy Jamaica, see the country, and really make the most of the experience. And of course, you want to have like a little emergency fund just in case you have any major issues. So a few tips very quickly. You want to apply for any grants or scholarships early if those are not yet in place. You also want to check with local organizations before you leave in terms of additional resources that you may be able to draw on. We have our Office of Student Financing, and the website is there that you can reach out to, and they have resources on helping to bridge gaps and so on. So that's a vital resource that you can utilize that's available on campus. One of the offices that I mentioned at the outset that will be there to support you. Of course, camaraderie is really one of the vital things that you'll encounter. So, no man is an island. Everyone can really help each other, and pooling resources can oftentimes help students to cut costs drastically. So there be communal cooking, or communal bulk buying of groceries and that kind of thing. Those things oftentimes help to stretch your budget. Now, it is important for you to have a sense of the cost of living here in Jamaica. So what we've done is essentially break down, based on some key categories, what some of the relevant costs are in terms of food, what some of the general costs are in terms of accommodation. As you can see, it varies quite a bit. And as Mr. Hamilton mentioned, 138 student living would likely be on the upper end, and the traditional halls would likely be closer to the lower end. In terms of your books and incidentals, you have a range there. Of course, that depends largely on your program and some of the requirements there, and the faculty will be sharing information with you on that. And if you haven't received it, be sure to reach out to either us or your faculty, and we can get you guidance on those things. Now, things like the miscellaneous fee, that's an annual fee, so you'll pay it once a year. You also may need to acquire some single purchase items, as I mentioned. That can vary quite a bit, so we'll take you during the orientation week to a local store where you can buy some groceries and personal items and so on. And as Mr. Terrell mentioned, of course, visa costs, and those were listed earlier. Here they're just really translated to US dollars, which you may be a little more familiar with. And again, these are estimates based on our research. So it's important that you, of course, do your own research and see what applies. Now, in terms of the Jamaican currency and the exchange rate, this just really gives you a snapshot of what it is relevant to a single currency, or dollar or euro or pound in relevant currencies. So that kind of gives you a sense as to where things are at and what the Jamaican dollar should be able to afford you. So that's the meat of the matter in terms of money and managing your money. Of course, we'll be sharing more details with you when we see you at our orientation session on January 19. And of course, we'll talk about things like, setting up a bank account. If you wish, you may need a taxpayer registration number, and we'll take you through some of the procedures there. So next, what we have is, we thought it would be really key for you to hear from, persons who have had firsthand experiences going through what you will be going through. So Mr. L has assembled a wonderful group of students who will be sharing some of their own experiences and information with you and tips. So Mr. L, you want to just introduce the students and take us through that segment?
All right. No, for me, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You want to hear, I can tell you, you're going to have a good time. I can tell you things are going to be fine. I can tell you, oh Lord, get ready. Come on, you're going to have the time of your life. But I'm going to let you speak to persons who were in the same position as yourselves a couple of months ago, and they're now here in Jamaica. So they are going to be given the opportunity to tell you a little bit about their experience. I have Tamika and Linda. They will tell you about where they're from. And I see Mike is here. Mike? Hi, Mike. Mike is definitely here. So you will be hearing from them. Now, I have a couple questions that I'm going to be throwing at our students here. And then they will, first they will tell you a little about themselves, and then they will answer these questions. Now, to Tamika or Linda. Well, both of you first, just introduce yourselves, tell them a little bit about you and what you're doing in Jamaica at UWI.
So hi, I'm Tamika. I'm French and Congolese, but I'm here as a French person. So I'm a third year law student, and I'm here at UWI for 2 semesters. I arrived on August the 23rd, so it was moving date for Taylor Hall. I live on Taylor Hall flat, so I have my single room, but I share the rest of the flat with my flatmate, which is a graduate student. and it's most helpful to have someone living with me.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Linda. I'm in political science. I'm a second year student. I'm French too, but we were not from the same university. I'm in a different hall. It's towers. I'm living in a single room, but I share the common area, like the bathroom and the kitchen with other people, like other girls.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
And
Mike,
I'm
your time.
Yes, my name is Meki, and
Meki.
I'm Turkish, but I represent Sweden. I come from a Swedish university, and I live on Irvine. And I actually know Tamika and Linda. We traveled together, and we've had a good time here so far. And although I do international relations back home, I do some elective courses here. With Tamika, I did international law and some other courses as well.
Nice, Mickey. And that's another thing too, with the pronunciation of the names. Please forgive me if I don't pronounce your name correctly. All right. Now, Tamika, can you tell us what advice would you give to our incoming students about your experience with the application process for the entry visa?
So as a European citizen, and I had to go to Brussels embassy because we don't have a Jamaican embassy in France. So I went there. I mean, I applied first, so I sent all of the paperwork via email, and then I had the choice to either send my passport and have it sent back via the post office, or to go there directly. And because I didn't had a lot of time when it got approved. I had to go to make sure that I will have my passport because, well, I couldn't travel without my passport and all plane tickets were already booked. So I did that about 10 days before going. Also think about the ESTA if you are coming through the United States. It's an application online. It costs 21 US dollars, and it's approved within 48 hours if everything goes well. What else? So yeah, I had my student visa. At the airport, think to bargain with the officer because he's going to try to give you only 30 days, but it's really complicated to have everything within 30 days. So it's better if you explain to him that you're a student, you have accommodation here, you have enough money, and you have the student visa, so that he gives you 90 days. And after that, you will have to go to PICA, immigration office, to get your extension of stay.
Nice. Thank you, Tamika. Mickey, what was it like for you, the application process for your visa, considering that we have some students who will be coming from Sweden?
For us, it was actually pretty smooth. I just sent my passport in a recommended post to the the Jamaican consulate in Sweden, in Stockholm, and he sent it back. And then I just arrived at Norman Manley, showed them the stamp, and then they gave me another stamp with 3 months extension because I'm a student, not a tourist. So I get the 90 days rather than but as Tamika said, they may make a mistake, they may not give you 3 months, but you do need those 3 months in order to facilitate and allow you to actually settle down and then go to PICA, because if you don't, then you
What sort of advice would you give to the students who will be coming in January?
So my advice will be, yeah, to be careful for the visa and like be open to the country because it's a new experience and it will be really great. So yeah. Hmm? Oh yeah, the date, the date, because I had 30 days. So yeah, be careful with the date and go to pick up before
it expires. Right, right. Meki, what about your general experience of studying in Jamaica, being at the UWI? Can you tell us something about that, what you have been experiencing, the classroom setting, your different lecturers? How do you understand the Jamaican language? Because even though we speak English in Jamaica, we have our native tongue. How have you been dealing with that?
Honestly, when it comes to patois, you pick it up quite quick. I've lived in London in a mostly West Indian community, so I picked up patois as a teenager. But even if you don't have that from early, you still pick it up from here, and it's not that hard to understand. It's just the people from different parishes that might have a more rudimentary patois, like from earlier, that might be more difficult. Other than that, it's understandable. It's not that deep. Like you get it. The classroom setting is honestly the first time I went to Faculty of Law. It was humid and hot outside, so I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. But when I walked into the lecture hall, the AC was on. So after about 15-20 minutes, I got cold. So that's what, and you know, that's one of those things that's like just funny to think about now after being here for 3.5 months. But yeah, the facilities are good. The facilities are really good. You have everything you need, really. And everything is there for you. It's reachable, so you can just go and get whatever you need. If you need pens or papers or printing papers or whatever, it's all there. And then they'll be introduced to RVLE, which is like the online digital system to see your courses and literature and stuff like that. And the final thing I was going to say was, yes, I had the honor of meeting, me and Tamika had the honor of meeting Professor Stephen Bassiani, who is a professor in international law, but
Mickey, oh, there's a problem with his internet. All right, well, let's hope that he will come back on. But Linda, can you give us some things up, say something about your general experience about studying at the UWI, studying in Jamaica. You are from a French background. How was it that you got to understand the Jamaican language when somebody come up to you and say, Wagwan? How did you respond?
So when I arrived, it was really complicated because I didn't used to hear the Jamaican accent and the Jamaican patois. So it was difficult, and I just told people, please just speak English and just slow down, please. But now I can understand a little bit of patois, and I don't try to speak patois because I'm shy with patois. But yeah, it's cool. And about the courses, I met a lot of people because I don't have courses with the same people, so it was really good to meet a lot of new people every day. And to understand the course, it was really simple. Like they don't like go too fast, and they are really comprehensive with the students, and most particularly the exchange students. So like they really welcomed me very good. So yeah, it was cool.
Tameka, your experience, we're in our examination period. How do you find doing examinations at UWI compared to your university back home?
I feel like it's more stressful because in France we have the first session, and then if we fail, we have second session in June. So that prevents you from failing overall. But no, I mean, I have mixed feeling because yes, we don't have a second session here, but you can pick which question you want to answer in the examination. So for example, you will have 4 questions and you will have to answer 2 out of the 4 questions. For me, like exam are over now. I had 1 on the 6th and 1 on the 7th and 2 on the 12th and an assignment. Some courses have assignment to hand out instead of exams. What can I say about it? Oh yeah, I will continue what Mickey was trying to say before breaking up. So we have a course with Professor Vashani. with a former ambassador to the US, and is really renowned in the international law community. So that was a great honor to me because I didn't think I would be taught by such people one day. So yeah, UWI has really great professors, really comfortable facilities. Yeah, concerning courses, it's really great.
Excellent. Mickey, sorry, your internet failed. So you can just say you were talking about your meeting with Professor Vassiani.
Yeah,
It was
Professor Vassiani has been, I mean, so I didn't expect that, but he actually asked me when I missed a couple of lectures, he actually asked for me, and I had people from different channels like, where is Meki? Is he okay? Why isn't he coming to lectures and stuff like that? And it
Wow.
was me having sleeping problems, but he actually cared and spoke to Tamika to talk to me and also spoke to Kavita Johnson to talk to me as well. Like I had people like Stephen Vassoni is asking for you. Where are you? Like he cares about you,
Yeah.
That was you'll get that from your lecturers and your professors. It's quite
Nice. So what about the examination process? There are some students who'll be coming from your school. You want to tell them anything about the examination process at the UWI?
Yeah, it's most of them are pen and paper. You either get essay questions when it comes to actual examination. We're not talking about presentations or assignments. The actual examination will be pen and paper, either essay questions where Tamika said you can choose 2 or 4, or there'll be compulsory questions and you get a booklet you just write on, or you can get multiple choice where you have 40 or 60 or whatever number it is, and then you just do multiple choice questions, pen and paper. So you have to, if you're not used to that, I'm not used to that because in Sweden, we usually do assignments where we formulate a question and then we're graded based on the literature that we use and all of that other stuff. I live right next to the road. That's why that's the style of examinations over here.
Okay. Excellent. And for students coming in January, for you to know, Tamika and Linda, they will be continuing for semester 2. Mickey will still be here, so you'll be able to correspond with them. We can share. I'll ask them to share their email address in the chat. So if you have questions that you wanted to ask them, a personal question, you could always get in touch with them. However, now I want to ask, our students coming in January, do you have any questions for our 3 students?
No questions. I'm not seeing any hands just yet. Yeah, it seemed like you covered everything. And those are really engaging and really interesting takes. I'm really glad to hear that you've been enjoying your time here at the University of the West Indies.
So with no questions, I will say thank you to Tamika, Linda, and Mickey for joining us, and that you will be hearing, you'll have the opportunity to hear more from them and talk directly to them. So yes, the email addresses and the WhatsApp number are being shared so you can make contact. All right, so thank you, Linda. Thank you, Linda, Tamika, Mickey. Thank you again.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. L, and thanks to the students as well. So this brings us to the end of our webinar. So thank you again for joining us. We encourage you to also join us on Friday, January 19, as I mentioned, at 10:30 a.m. For the virtual orientation session for regional and international students that will be joining in semester 2. For this session, a recording will be placed on YouTube and the link will be shared. I'd like to thank Mr. Athel Hamilton, as well as Tamika, Linda, and Mickey for their excellent contributions. Thanks to Ms. Terrell also for her support. And last but not least, I'd like to thank you for joining us today, for choosing the UWI, and we're sure that you'll have a wonderful time. So of course, feel free to reach out to us for anything that you might need. Any questions or concerns, we're definitely here to help you.